I'm psyched to be in the studio with Jobi Riccio. I've been a fan of yours, Jobi, since your first album came out. Your second one is out now, and I love it. I love your music. Welcome to Minnesota.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
Stoked to be here.
You're from Colorado.
Yeah.
You're from Morrison, which is where Red Rocks is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You grew up there, and now I heard you moved to Nashville recently.
Yeah. It'll be 5 years in September.
Oh, really? That long? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of flown by,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
I've been touring a lot of it, which is what I set out there to do, so.
I've been looking at your schedule. You're busy. Yeah, you're very busy.
Yeah.
So were you going to be a musician all your life growing up? You knew you were going to do this? Or when did you start playing music?
I started singing kind of before I started playing music. I started singing from a really young age, probably like 5 or 6 years old. And then I started playing guitar about 12 when I realized I might want to write my own songs. When I started really picking up on lyrics in songs. And yeah, I think that I didn't really realize that I could be a musician as a job until I met other working musicians. I went to a bluegrass festival in Colorado and met musicians who, they gigged and they made a living doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, it's not just famous people you see on TV and you hear on, Top 40 radio who are doing music. You can do music in all kinds of ways. And I realized it can look all different ways. And I think there's more of a understanding of that with the internet and social media now, but this was in the mid 2000s and early 2010s when I was coming of age. And yeah, so I think that's probably about when I decided I really wanted to go for it. And then I attended music school.
Berkeley, right?
Mm-hmm,
wow,
yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, and decided I didn't want to teach high school history or be a farmer or study forestry, which were other interests of mine, and still, I guess, interests I hold. Not so much history, but I don't know. I was just good at social studies. So
When you go to Berkeley and study music, do you study with the intent of being a teacher or being a traveling musician, or is there certain majors you take on there?
I think it depends on the student. Some students are there and they want to study teaching, and they want to be music teachers, which is, anybody who wants to be a teacher is a very noble thing to go out there and do, especially these days.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of kids there who want to be songwriters, who want to be players, session players, side hired guns, as they say, people who play on records, people who play on tours, people who are engineers working in studios. So it's basically all kinds of people in the music industry. Music business was another program that I had friends in. Sure. There was also this kind of funny create your own major thing called pro music that I had some friends in. I personally studied songwriting because I loved to write songs as a teenager, and I didn't really know. It's a funny thing to try to go learn, and in some ways it is something that it was good to have structure around it, and it also, I think I learned that it is something that you can have craft in, you can learn tools that are really helpful, and it's also such a subjective thing and such a muscle to work. So I think that was one of the most useful things I learned from school.
Yeah. So you made the transition from school to Nashville. Tell me what that's like, moving to Nashville as a young songwriter. It's a big deal.
Yeah, well, it was a little strange because I had the pandemic and I went back to Colorado for that. So I had some period of time where I was living back in Colorado, and I worked at this indoor ski gym.
Okay.
That was very weird.
I'm trying to picture that in my mind.
Yeah, it was bizarre and totally not an essential business, but it was the only place I could get hired at the time.
Okay.
I hadn't finished my degree in then I did. But yeah, it's like I had this weird niche degree, and a lot of places, like, people were hard up for jobs.
Yeah. And there's probably no gigs at that point either.
No,
Right?
yeah, I was doing like live streams and stuff.
Yep.
And so I worked at this indoor ski gym, which is basically just like this warehouse with these like astroturfed hills, and like little kids would come in like masked one at a time, and I would like teach them skiing
Oh, wow.
on these hills. It was very bizarre.
Well, of course you're a skier. I should know.
Yeah,
From Colorado.
but it was very weird.
Yeah.
So that was my job, and then I worked at a brewery, and once I saved enough money, I moved to Nashville September 2021.
And what was that like? A big, huge change?
Yeah, bit of a culture shock. I had never lived or spent a lot of time in the South before. And yeah, I had a bunch of community and people already in Nashville, so I felt like it was unfamiliar and familiar all at once.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, I know all these people, but the context with which I'm seeing them is totally new. Like, I had never been around. Also, like, Nashville is entirely a singular place. Like, it's drunk Disneyland. Like, I'd never been around so many drunk people before. like truly. And it was so unnerving, like, to be like, oh, like, I live in a tourist destination. Like, because Colorado it's a tourist place, but it's like outdoor tourism.
Yes. Right.
And I feel like it's kind of transitioned from being a tourist destination to just a place where people move. And I don't know if that's a good thing. Because now it's like the third most expensive place in the country,
Oh, I didn't know
which
that.
is,
Yeah.
I just saw that and was like, well, guess I'm never moving home then.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, like, it took me a while to kind of find my footing because I'm a Westerner, but my dad is from the Northeast. So, like, I
Okay.
feel like living in Boston, like, I understand the Northeast. I understand the West. Midwesterners, love y'all. Very, like, sweet, earnest people, easy to get along with.
Aw.
Like, I don't know, yeah, but, like, I think the South, I was just sort of, like, I was just trying to, like, connect there, and, yeah, I guess it wasn't so much the culture of the South that I was struggling with, as much as the culture of Nashville,
Yeah.
the tourist city,
Yeah.
that I was kind of like, ooh.
All the wedding parties and
The bachelorettes,
Bachelorette
yeah, and
I've seen
the
them, and-
drinking and the, like, feeling like you have to pander to the tourists as, like, the working songwriter waiting tables, and it's like,
yeah.
I hate that. But eventually I felt like I finally started to kind of settle, and I started touring, and things started picking up in my career when I released my first record.
Whiplash came out a couple of years back.
Yeah.
I love the record.
Thank you.
What was that like? And then think about making songs for your new record, which is just out now. The transition, the songs. Did any of those songs exist back then when you were making that first record? You put them in a safe and wait for the second record to come out. How have you grown as a songwriter since that record?
I maybe had like one or two of the songs sort of stored away
Yeah.
from Face the Feeling while we were doing Whiplash. We made Whiplash in Asheville, North Carolina, and I made it with the same, well, not entirely the same three people, because there was another collaborator who owned the studio, Gar Ragland, in North Carolina, who we worked with, who wasn't on this new record. So almost the same collaborative unit of myself, Jesse Tim, who is out here playing bass with me, who played at Fine Line last night, and Isaiah Beard. And we all co-produce and all kind of play different roles. Like, Jesse is a really gifted arranger and wrote the string parts on Face the Feeling, wrote the woodwind parts on Whiplash. And Isaiah is an amazing producer and mixer. So he is, like, crazy good with the Pro Tools software, which is, for anyone listening who's not familiar, it's basically just, like, the software that you record everything onto on the computer.
Multi-track?
Multi-track, yeah. And he's just amazing at making music sound three-dimensional. And I feel like you can really hear that on both
Yeah.
of my records.
Yeah.
But in terms of me as the songwriter and how I've grown, I think I interpersonally did a lot of work between these two records. Like, I was struggling with things in my personal life on both of them, but I kind of changed my approach to how I dealt with them. And on Whiplash, I feel like I am just sort of processing coming of age. And then on this new record, I'm like dealing with things and feeling through them to their very end, and trying to come through to the other side, and looking at things and being like, okay, so this is what's happening, and like, where do I want to go with this, I suppose. Yeah, like, I had learned that I had to become a more honest person with myself in adulthood if I was gonna get through it. And yeah, I couldn't people please my way through existence, which I think women specifically are socialized to do. And yeah, I reached the ripe old age of like 24 and was like, oh, I have to start like telling the truth actually, and like having hard conversations, because this is not, I'm like feeling resentful, and I'm not being honest with myself here. And I think there's a lot of that grappling that you can hear me go through on the lyrics in the writing of Face the Feeling.
Yeah. I'm talking with Jobi Riccio in the studio today. Face the Feeling is her latest album. It's a really nice record. And you talked about growing as a songwriter in the second album. What's next? Are there more songs that are sitting in your back pocket that you just haven't quite finished yet? And another album in the next few years? What's in the future for you?
Yeah, I think for me it'll be like tapping back in to my creativity, and for now I'm really excited to be touring this record. And I was playing with a band here last night, and I'm out with Deer Tick, which is so fun. It's been so fun to get to know those guys, and to play and hear them play every night. And I've always wanted to play with a band behind me, and this is my first tour that I've gotten to do that. And I think this record is more of a band forward record.
Yeah.
So I think I'm learning how to tour with a band right now. So I think this next season of touring is like me working that muscle. And then also when I'm on the road and off the road, kind of seeing what's going on creatively, doing some morning pages. I have some songs kicking around. I don't know if it's a record, if it's an EP. I've definitely I've got some material. I don't really know what's next, to be honest, but yeah, I'm really excited with this record and the growth that I've experienced. And yeah.
You got a big tour coming up next fall? Where are y'all going?
I'm going out with John Craigie to Europe, and we're going to the UK and Ireland and Paris.
First time playing across the ocean?
So strangely, I've played in Sweden and Norway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a fair amount. And by a fair amount, I mean twice, which is more than once.
Yeah.
So it feels like I could say a fair amount. Yeah, I have a fan over there who's a promoter, Bjorn Pettersson, who really loves my music and has championed me in Scandinavia. So we're going to Sweden as well.
Cool. Stockholm,
and we're going to Oslo in Norway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then after the John Craigie tour, I'm going to play Take Root Festival in the Netherlands, and then do some more dates that aren't announced yet in the Netherlands. And yeah, so I'm going to be in Europe for over a month.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Jobi Riccio is my guest today, and I just want to say congratulations on your two albums. You're only two albums in, but you sound much more mature than that. You've got a great sound. I love your songwriting. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for coming to Minnesota and treating us with your sound.
Yeah, I love it. I love the music that's come out of here. It was really exciting to play here last night for the first time, but I was also like nervous. It's like I felt the same thing when I like played in New Orleans for the first time. So I have such a reverence for the music here, or like Chicago. Like I'm like, dang, gotta do well by these people because they know good music, you know?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.